Clearly disappointing to be going into the final game with nothing really riding on it.
Yes, it is. It sort of takes me back to my media days in India when I was working on the production of the ISL season 9, and it come to the end of the season. There's one or two dead rubbers, and my job was to try and make them look exciting. It didn't. Apparently, it wasn't the players' responsibility of their job. It wasn't the manager's responsibility of their job. It was the media's responsibility in their job. But there's never such a thing, in my honest opinion, as a dead rubber, because players are always playing for something. If that's a new contract, if that's for the enhance their reputation, let people know they're around. And we've got, one or two younger lads that I can maybe throw into the mix on Saturday, just to really have a look at them against decent opposition, because it has to be said, we're coming up against one of the better sides in the National League of last season, and they've done a remarkable job at Barnet. The consistency levels that they've reached on a weekly basis, on a match by match basis, has been admirable, and one of envy where I'm concerned. But we're going there with 3 points to play for and some careers to play for, and if any of the older lads think the younger lads are going to just join in and it's just going to be a big, a glorious five-a-side, they've got another thing coming. They've got careers ahead of them, and me for one as a manager, if I'm still manager of Kidderminster Harriers next season, I want to be having a look at these lads in the thick of it, in the heat of the battle, instead of just on the training ground, where there's not really too much to play for apart from trying to grab the manager's attention. So I'll be looking at one or two. I'll be drafting one or two in. We recalled 3 players from their loan spells in the various leagues that they've been in. So the squad will be enhanced by them 3 players, which is Samson Hewitt, Kobe Hall, and Josh Bishop, and maybe have a look at them at some stage on Saturday. We've got Noah out of the under 18s, under 19s squad, which he's been training with us for about probably 5-6 weeks now, and I've been impressed by the lad. It can't be said, the rest of the team have been impressed by him as well. Training on a daily basis, not frightened to handle the ball, wants to get on the ball. And we've also got Seb, who we signed. Obviously, he's had his problems with regards to trying to reach a level at places like Burnley and Derby County and places like that, and hasn't managed to reach that level. And we took him probably 5 or 6 weeks ago, and we've had a look at him on a training ground basis and seen him once or twice, and he's in the squad as well. So we'll be having a look at one or two with a view to next season. So there's certainly something to play for where that's concerned.
Was it a frustration for you that, I was a great wakeling, so I wasn't listening to every kick or every cough, as they say, but it almost seemed to go down with a bit of a whimper rather than a bang last weekend. Is that too harsh or not?
I don't think it's harsh. People have levelled criticism at the team, and probably I've stayed a little bit clear of it for some reason, and at the end of the day I accepted the responsibility 16-17 games ago of being Kidderminster Harriers manager, saviour, somebody that's going to keep them away from relegation, and we failed on all fronts, unfortunately. The one thing we did do is that we raised everybody's expectation levels and got back into the pack. But once we got back into the pack, everybody's expectation levels were raised to the extent where everybody started playing around us and started winning games around us, none more so than AFC failed, as an example. I think only one team fell by the wayside, and that was Oxford City. Whereas we were that team before me and Neil arrived at the football club. And to get rid of the tag, first and foremost, was the hardest part. But when the respect did arrive, and it was due after 4 wins on the bounce, the respect did arrive. We wanted our players then to step up to the plate even further, and that was the hard challenge. That was the task that probably eluded us, if truth be known. But the players have to take responsibility. The players have to understand that we were in that position for a reason. And then after 4 wins on the bounce, we were in that position for a reason, and therefore people are not going to lie down and give you anything in this game. You know, you have to fight for everything that you earn. And that's the word, you know, we earned the respect, we earned the right to be on the same field as the opposition, but then the opposition stepped up to the plate and then we found out how difficult it was. And you have to say it, the team that were playing on Saturday, Barnet, have had that respect all season and deserve that respect all season, and we'll pay them that respect. It won't be an under-16s team I'm putting out there, it'll be a little spattering of youth, coupled with the experience of the team that got promoted last year. So if you look at all them things, we'll be putting a team out that'll challenge for the 3 points for sure on Saturday, with a view to next season.
In one of your earlier answers in this interview, you said if you're here next season. Do you want to be here next season? Is there any further news on that?
Yes, I think we've made a clear inclination or reference to the chairman, to Dean Holdsworth, regarding our views, our opinions about next season, about where we want to take the team, what do we want to do with the team. So them conversations are well into sort of 2-3 weeks now, and I'm delighted with the way the conversations have gone. I was disappointed, obviously, at the end of the campaign to be relegated when I've been banging this positivity drum. It's very difficult to understand, you know, how the club is then run. You know, we have to now run and prepare ourselves for a life in the National League North, and that's not easy for everybody. You know, so it's hit everybody hard. You know, I've only been here, as I say, for 3 months, and it's hit me hard. And if it's hit me hard, I wonder, you know, people that have supported the club through thick and thin and throughout their lives, the truth be known, how they must be feeling. But we have to dust ourselves down, we have to get on with it, and we have to finish off the season with a little bit of pride. And if we can beat the team at the top of the table 3 weeks ago or 3 games ago, and then we can beat the team at second in the table, and we've given a good account to ourselves against teams in the playoffs. Well, if we're capable of doing that, it's just that lack of consistency that's let us down all season. But we have to bring a level of performance and a level of consistency and a level of pride to our performance on Saturday. And if we do that, then we can have I can't even say the word hard-earned rest, because you haven't earned it. Albeit you've played 46 games, you haven't really earned it, because we've got to prepare long and hard in the summer months for preparation for life in the National League North. And
you would know better than I would that next season in National League North you're going to be there to be shot at, really, because you're going to be seen as one of the bigger teams.
It's an interesting thought process, you know, because you're there to be shot at. You're going from a team that's struggled all year in the National League to a team that's going to be one of the biggest in National League North, and everybody's wanting to come to Agbra and play. Nothing changes there, you know. Agbra is what it is. I'm not going to knock it down. I'm not going to run a tractor over the pitch to make it look like a ploughed field. I want it to look like Wembley. I want it to play like Wembley. I want it to be like Wembley. But we've got to embrace that. But it has to be said, you know, the group mentality next year will change if myself and Neil MacDonald are here, because we work in a different way. And I think the mentality of the group has to be one of, we've got a target on our back, embrace it. Let's understand the challenge of what the National League North throws at us, and understand that it's probably one of the better venues. So we've got this better venue for 23 games next year. I'd rather have that than not, put it that way.
Final question, nothing to do with Harriers specifically, although it could easily affect Harriers. The FA have announced today that they're going to scrap replays in the FA Cup from the first round proper onwards. Have you got any thoughts on that? Because that would seem possibly to penalise the smaller clubs to a degree.
Yeah, I suppose so. It will do eventually, won't it? But just practice more penalties by the sound of it. We witnessed last night Man City going out on penalties, so it happens to the best in the world. Penalties are such an important part of today's game. But the reason why they're scrapping it for various reasons, but the main one will be the physicality of replay after replay after replay, and then exhausted bodies even at this level. Having played probably 60 games next year, how many people can actually do that nowadays? I used to pride myself if I started the first game because of a good 6 weeks preparation in pre-season. If I started the first game, that was me fit for 46 games, and that's the way I had that mentality. And quite often I did play the 46 league games. Now the modern day footballer, and it's quite amazing how it's evolved to this stage, but it's very interesting. Sports science has got a place, there's no doubt about it. But now you've got me on the subject. When Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland say to the manager during the quarter-finals of the Champions League against Real Madrid over 2 legs that their races run, they need to come off because they're tired and they're fatigued. First and foremost, you'd be a foolish coach not to take that on board. But them days of never wanting to miss a minute and playing every game and playing every minute of every game and playing cup finals, etc., etc., them days are long and truly gone, because we can now prove with numbers that fatigue does exist. So the good old-fashioned club captain that wants to play every game, every minute of every game, never says to the manager, I'm tired, because there's no such word. Them days are well and truly gone.
But do you think, for the smaller clubs, it's going to hit them financially? Possibly. I mean, for example, if you draw, Exeter drew Manchester United a couple of years, or several years ago now, and got a replay out of it, so that set them up for the next 3 years probably.
I think the option should be, if Exeter played Manchester United and it's at St James's Park instead of Old Trafford, I think the option of reversing the fixture should be given to the home team if they wanted to, if you're going to do away with replays. And I would suspect that Manchester United wouldn't have bowed out at that. They would have said, yeah, no problem, come down to us, or come up to us, should I say. You can't get any further south than Exeter, can you? But it will beg the question. It has to be said that if the FA Cup, for instance, is going to be a source of finance for lower league teams, then scrapping replays is a hindrance to them. Then the option of changing the fixtures or reversing the fixtures should be allowed.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Just a final point, you mentioned there about obviously the mentality of players wanting to play every week and play every game, and how Saturday wouldn't be a dead rubber. What's the attitude been like from the players on the training ground this week? Because there have been quite a few players who've played in almost every game and a couple who've played in every game. Are they keen to kind of see the campaign out in that regard?
I think so. I think Christian Dibble being one of them. We've recalled Josh Bishop back from his loan spell, and the reason is not being nasty to the team that we've loaned him to. I think we couldn't have been more credible, as it were, lending players at this level to teams at a different level. But the point being, Josh Bishop is a type of player, and I'm not saying he's jumping ahead of Palms here. Tom Palmer's working his way in the coaching capacity within the football club, and it's interesting to see that develop, because the younger you get the coaching handbook, as far as I'm concerned, the more you understand the game, the better the player you are. And that applies to goalkeeping as well. But bringing Josh Bishop back and integrating him in the squad, he's been involved in first team football since I've been at the club. He is an integral part of that, he's part of the changing room banter and crack, as it were, but he's also part of practice matches, and he's part of everything that we've tried to bring to the football club. He's embraced. Going out on loan, he's never missed a training session since he's been out on loan, so you can see that his attitude is right. He wants to be a professional footballer, which is great news. But to take Dibbs' 100% record away from him would be remiss of me. But to have Bish on the bench for a little spell somewhere in the game is not beyond the realms of possibility. But at the same time, if we're here next year, for me, Josh would be somebody that you can work with to the extent where you're expecting a return if you sold him. But you'd also be expecting a return if he was in the sticks, and he's proving to be quite a... Listen, we're all shot stoppers if we're goalkeepers, nobody questions that, but he's quite a brave goalkeeper. He's quite a... it's a distinguished shot stopper, so moments in games where you need a match winner doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the number 9 who puts the ball in the back of the net. It could be the goalkeeper, of which on many occasions Dibbs has. If truth be known, Dibbs has had a fantastic season and rewarded with the Player of the Year, and rightly so. From the player's point of view, it's always nice to know that when the back line has been breached, that you've still got a man in the sticks that's standing up for the cause, as it were. So to say Dibbs' contract's up, etc., etc. Do I want him at the football club? Absolutely. But if Josh Bishop is here and we're here, then there's a pathway, as far as I'm concerned, from the academy, as we know it. There's a pathway through to the first team, and it's led by the likes of Josh Bishop, the likes of Kyle Issimon, and the rest of them, who we've recalled from their loan spells.
And talking briefly about Jack, of course, is there anyone who's not available to you this weekend for the last one?
Well, Jack Lambert, you know, as far as we're concerned, Jack's been at the thick end of a lot of heavy challenges, shall we say. He's that type of player. If I was playing against Jack, I'd want to get close to him. I'd want to try and deny him space, because he can exploit you and make you look a fool if necessary. But he's received a lot of harsh treatment, if truth be known, and I've not really, you know, shouted from the rooftops about it. I've not blown up about it. He's took a couple of heavy clumps, shall we say, in the good old-fashioned Phil Brown way. Back in the day when it was the only way to stop a quick winger, because you had a couple of free tackles, as it were. But nowadays you're not allowed that. Referees have not really, at this level, recognised that. And Jack's took some real harsh treatment, and consequently he's got a brace on. Believe it or not, you wouldn't, well, believe it or not, the skipper had a brace on for 6 weeks, and the day he was released of that brace to now hopefully be prepared and ready for his next challenge, which is hopefully here next season. As far as I'm concerned, that brace was then handed over to Jack Lambert. How unlucky can you get? You know, we didn't send it back to the hospital or put it in a cupboard somewhere. It's now with Jack Lambert, so that's a bit harsh. But hopefully, Jack, he's got it on for 6 weeks, and hopefully he'll get the same rest and recuperation and be ready and available, because he's under contract for next year's campaign.